This section is called, appropriately enough, park and ride. These words will deal with staying in one place or, conversely, moving along.
There are a surprising number of words that fall into these two categories.
Well, then let's get started, baby.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
First, from the park half of park and ride, we have inert.
Inert means simply not moving or having no active components.
Sounds like inertia.
It's very similar. Inertia, for all you physics fans out there, is that property that says that things that are at rest tend to stay at rest.
This is another one of those words that has a strict literal meaning, but which can be liberally applied metaphorically. It's great, for example, when you're fighting with your girlfriend to say the relationship is inert.
You mean rather than saying we're not going anywhere?
Exactly.
Makes you sound dweeby to say inert, I think.
You could say, hey, baby, we've gotten so phlegmatic.
Can't you get an antibiotic for that?
I think I see the connection you're making there between phlegm and phlegmatic, and while there is a relationship, it's not quite what you're thinking.
What is it?
Phlegmatic means sluggish, lacking movement, or unable to be excited.
Acting like phlegm, you mean?
Well, in a sense, yes. Laying around all goopy-like and not going anywhere.
So you could say what this relationship needs is a good sneeze to clear out the phlegm.
Yes, you could, and I think your point would be well made, not to mention well taken.
I should hope so.
So, phlegmatic can be used to describe virtually any situation in which things have stopped moving or have almost slowed to a halt.
So how would that be different from languor?
You mean that little city up in Maine?
No, silly, not banger, languor. If phlegmatic means listless and unmoving, then how is that different from being in a state of languor, or, to use the adjectival form, to be languorous?
I didn't even know that Languor wasn't a city in Maine. How do you expect me to know the difference between phlegmatic and languorous?
Good point. I'll handle it. Languorous also means just sitting around, not moving or in one place for a long time. But you'll find that it has a kind of dreamy connotation.
Dreamy?
Yes. If you're feeling languorous, it means that you're happy to be doing nothing. It's likely that you're by the pool with a drink in your hand and the warm sun on your face.
And phlegmatic?
Not dreamy. Phlegmatic, like the phlegm from which it stems, is no fun. It implies you're not moving because you're stuck or unable to get going. Languorous has a much nicer connotation.
Do these words really mean that much to you?
Why?
I was just curious about how you were planning on making this next definition sound anything other than totally dull.
Well, let's see. What's the word?
It's in situ.
That's Latin, is it not?
Yes, yay.
No, silly, not Pig Latin.
Oh, hey.
Itque.
Okay, yay.
In situ, whatever its literal translation, gets used today to mean still in its original position.
Which is good because in situ is a lot easier to say than still in its original position.
You hear it used a lot to describe medical situations. For example, if you've got a tumor, God forbid, but it hasn't spread yet, they call it in situ.
Or if your girlfriend is sick but she's too fat to move, the doctor has to come treat her in situ at the house.
Right. That wasn't dull.
There. See how easy? Now I'll bet you'll never forget in situ.
Okay then, fair enough. But what are you going to do about caryatid?
Carry who?
Caryatid. It's what you call one of those statues of a woman that works like a column to hold up a building.
What?
A caryatid is a supporting column on a building that is built in the shape of a woman. You know, so the top of her head is where the column meets the roof or ceiling.
Uh-huh. Well, I sure can't see why caryatid would be in the park half of the group Park and Ride. I mean, she sure isn't going anywhere.
Precisely. And it may interest you to know that caryatid comes from Greek and refers to the priestess of Caryae. Caryatid. You'll often see caryatids decorating
I think you just like saying that word. You like saying caryatid.
Why, yes, I do, Archie. I like caryatid very much. I also believe that if I say it frequently, our listeners will be less likely to forget it.
Well, I like cunctation.
I'm sorry?
I said I like cunctation. Now that's a word you can really sink your teeth into. Cunctation.
You sure can sink your teeth into it, but what the heck does it mean? I've never even heard of that word before.
It means delaying or procrastinating. If you put things off that need to be done, then you're guilty of cunctation.
I don't know, Arch. I don't think that's a real word. Cunctation sounds like one of those words you make up as a child.
No, it really exists. Look it up. Or would you prefer to practice cunctation?
I don't generally procrastinate, as you well know, and I would indeed like to be able to look up cunctation, but time does not allow. For now, I'll just have to take your word for it that cunctation means procrastination. I don't want to get caught in a quagmire of definitions.
Quagmire.
That's a swamp or bog that gives way under your feet and traps you there.
That's the literal definition, but you can also use quagmire to mean any predicament or sticky situation that's hard to get out of.
For example, if you and your sister get into an argument about your grandmother's will, and you simply can't agree about who gets the collection of weird-smelling silk sheets, that too could be called a quagmire.
That's one word for it, I guess.
What's another?
Creepy.
That's an adjective that has nothing to do with it. What's another good word for quagmire?
Snagmire.
That's not a word.
Yes, it is.
Archie, snagmire is not a word.
Well, maybe not, but it's my mnemonic device for quagmire, and I like it.
You mean snagmire helps you remember the meaning of quagmire?
That's right. Just like snuffle helps me remember coffle.
Wait, what?
I remember coffle by thinking snuffle.
No, you don't.
You're right. I remember coffle by using it.
Well, help the rest of us here and fill us in on what it means.
A coffle is a group of animals or people who are chained together in a line.
Like a chain gang?
That's right. The lone cowboy appeared on the horizon against an azure sky, a coffle of horses trailing behind him.
I like coffle. It has real poetry to it. Like a murder of crows.
Or a crash of rhinoceroses, or a smack of jellyfish, or an ostentation of peacocks.
Right, only remember a coffle is a group bound together by a chain. Those others are just plain groups. There's a difference.
Why, thanks for that, Veronica. I might have forgotten. It's been so long since we heard the definition, after all.
I think we'd better review the park words from the group Park and Ride.
I think you're right. I'll start. Inert.
Unmoving, still, or in the case of chemicals, something with no active compounds.
Phlegmatic.
Sluggish, lacking energy, unable to be stimulated. Yucky.
Languorous.
Still, in a sleepy or dreamy way.
In situ.
In place or in its original position.
Caryatid.
A supporting column in the shape of a woman.
Cunctation.
Procrastination.
Quagmire.
A swamp or bog that's easy to get stuck in, or any predicament.
Coffle.
A group of people or animals chained together in a line.
And those are the words from the first half of the group.
The park words.
And now, to pull it all together for us, it's time for Tully the Turtle.
Hello there. I'm Tully the Turtle. Or is it Tortoise? I can never remember. I'm stuck in a cognitive quagmire about my own identity. The same one in which I grew up, I think. Oh well, that's what I get for being so phlegmatic. I never get to the library to look up my family history. I know that both turtles and tortoises came from the same ancestor, but I never learned which. It makes me sad. I'm very sad most of the time. My doctor says it's because I never get out of the house. But I can't really help it. I mean, I was born in situ, as you can plainly see. How am I supposed to get out of the house when it's growing out of my back? Goodness knows I'd love to move into a bigger place. A big mansion with beautiful caryatids holding up the roof. That'd sure be nice. All those tall women. There I wouldn't fall prey to my own inertia. In a palace with lots of servants and helpers, no one would ever accuse me of cunctation. I'd get done all the things I always wanted to. And there'd still be time to lie languorously by the pond and bathe in the warm rays of the sun. But not on my back! No. So sad. But you know what makes me saddest of all? That I would have no use at all for the word coffle in my house. Since I naturally deplore bondage of any sort, I would refuse to keep any creatures, man or beast, chained up in a line.
That was a bit of a stretch for coffle, don't you think?
Never mind. Let's move along. Perhaps you should get us started on the ride half of the Park and Ride words.
Terrific. Allow me to introduce you to my very favorite Joni Mitchell album. It's called Hejira. All the songs on Hejira revolve around the theme of travel, in particular, travel to a better place.
So simply stated, hijira is a noun which means a journey or pilgrimage from a lousy place to a better one.
Precisely. That's what a hejira is.
Can I get mine with extra cucumber sauce?
Now.
I'd like to hear hijira used once in a sentence, I would.
Since Delima had been missing for more than a week, practically everyone figured she'd gone insane or been abducted. But Sallow knew that she had finally begun her long-awaited hejira.
Wow, where'd she go?
Newport News.
Oi, where had she been before?
Wilmington.
Yikes, so that was a hejira?
Ever been to Wilmington?
No.
Trust me, hejira.
Now, word on the street is that Delima didn't stay in Newport News for long, though. In fact, since then, she's been in Santa Fe, Providence, Sioux Falls, and Albuquerque.
She's what they call peripatetic, one of my all-time best favorite words.
In high school, I had a friend whose father was in the Army, and by the time I had met her, she had already moved 6 times. She always liked to say that she and her family lived a peripatetic life.
Then what happened?
She moved 7 more times.
She really was peripatetic.
So much so that I eventually lost track of her peregrinations.
Wowie, you slipped that one in on us, didn't you?
Peregrination. Travel.
Sounds like Peregrine Falcon.
That is, in fact, how I remember peregrination. A peregrine falcon is incredibly good at getting from one place to another. They fly fast and they're very accurate.
So a peregrination is something that a peregrine falcon does very well.
There's a romantic connotation to the word peregrination that suggests something a little more special than just regular travel. For example, you wouldn't call taking the shuttle from Boston to New York a peregrination unless you were being a little ironic.
Don't you think?
A peregrination would be more like a journey that started in Nepal and then took you to Florence and then to Tanzania and ended in, say, Orlando.
Cool. Likewise, you wouldn't call taking a limousine from one party to the next on Oscar night a peregrination either. That might better be called gadding.
Ah, to gad.
To gad or to gad about, as it is often used, is to flit from social event to social event or from hotspot to hotspot in a casual, some might say random way. I used to gad about town quite a bit back in the days, before my trust fund dried up and I was forced to earn a living. Then I could ill afford to spend nights gadding from chic boîte to classy cabaret.
Work will do that to you.
It's also hell on your hands. Just look.
Ooh, that's bad.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Whatever it is, act with celerity or it may be too late.
What, is vegetable juice supposed to be good for the skin?
Not celery, silly. Celerity. It means quickness, speed, or rapidity.
You mean it's not what you use to stir your Bloody Mary?
No. If you're stirring your Bloody Mary with celerity, then you probably ought to quit stirring and start drinking. Look at it this way. Ambulances move with celerity. Celerity is essential if that package is going to get there by this afternoon. Marcia and Stickley agreed that for the sake of the little ones, they should work things out with celerity.
The little ones?
You've never met the little ones?
I don't think so.
Oh, they're little all right. I mean, really.
That would make them motile too, I guess.
Well, pound for pound, I'd say they're pretty easy to move, but they can also put up quite a fight. They don't generally like to move. Other, less sedentary ones are more motile than the little ones.
Motile doesn't simply mean movable then.
No. Otherwise, you could just say mobile. Motile means able to move spontaneously or on its own. See, a mobile home, for example, needs a driver and diesel fuel to get from one place to another.
But a motile home will just get up and go. That ability, by the by, is called motility.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
Don't push me now.
Many fungi multiply by dint of motile spores that spread themselves around, alighting on fecund surfaces and beginning life anew.
I like being motile.
You know what, Venus? I'm in the mood for a diaspora.
That's weird. Why would you be in the mood for the widespread dispersal of a people from one central location to places all around the world?
Oops. I guess I was thinking of another word. I thought a diaspora was a frozen drink made with rum and root beer ice cream.
No. A diaspora is when a people of common origin gets spread all over the world. It originally referred to the Jews who left Israel and dispersed themselves all over Europe and Babylonia. But now it can be used to describe any group at all.
Can it describe my gerbils who broke out of their habit trail and ran off to the 4 corners of the earth?
Sure. That's a diaspora of sorts, although there were probably gerbils already living in all the places where yours might have ended up.
So that means that it wasn't a true diaspora.
Well, my guess is no, unless you consider your specific gerbils to be a discrete population on their own.
And I do.
Well, then I suppose we could call it a diaspora, or maybe they just wanted to go gallivanting around for a while.
To gallivant is to run around playfully from place to place with the intention of having a good time. Yaakov had a hard time finishing his assignments as he much preferred gallivanting with his friends to laboring over a hot computer.
I understand.
And you think maybe my gerbils were just casually gallivanting around together and that they had no intention of moving away?
Well, it seems like a reasonable possibility anyway. Why would gerbils do such a thing?
I don't know. For God's sake, I just know that they're gone and I'm alone. What'll I do?
Get some new ones.
Oh my God, how could you even suggest such a thing? As if one gerbil were the same as any other. Obviously, you've never lost anything as valuable as a gerbil, or you wouldn't even be able to think of such a thing.
Right, whatever. Let's review the ride words from the group Park and Ride, okay? Archie? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. I'll start. Hegira.
A journey or pilgrimage to a better place.
Peripatetic.
Unsettled, frequently moving.
Peregrination.
A country of falcons.
Archie?
A journey.
Thank you. To gad.
To wander or meander aimlessly from place to place.
Celerity.
Speed or rapidity.
Motile.
Capable of spontaneous movement.
Diaspora.
The movement of a people or population from one central location to locations throughout the world.
To gallivant.
To hop, bop, or flop about happily from one place to another, usually with special friends or companions.
And those are they. Those are the ride words from Park and Ride.
So now, who's going to help us learn how to put them into context?
Why, Boomer, of course.
Boomer?
Boomer, the rootin' tootin'est female trucker this side of the Louisiana Purchase.
You mean Boomer Barker? The world-famous mother trucker?
I do indeed. So without further delay, won't you welcome Emily Boomer Barker, the mother trucker of I-80, 60, and 95.
Hello there, truckies, that's and soon-to-be-ers. Welcome to the wonderful world of 18-wheeling, where every day is a new beginning. Each pump of the pedal a chance at redemption, and every highway and interstate a potential hegira. What could be better, I ask you, than a daily opportunity to go to a better place? True, a peripatetic life like this one ain't for everyone. Those who prefer to stay in one place ought not to consider a motile lifestyle such as mine. Likewise, if you're the type who just likes to gad about, moving aimlessly from locale to locale, then trucking should be avoided. The trucker's primary objective is, after all, to get from here to there with the utmost celerity. In other words, don't dawdle. It's fine to view your work as the peregrinations of a great adventurer, but do it in the privacy of your own cab, is what I suggest. You can tell your friends you've been gallivanting around the country, moving from fancy affair to fancy affair, if that's the sort of fantasy you require. However, let's face it, trucking is work first, spiritual uplift second. And it can be tough. I have more than once likened life on the road to the early diaspora. I'm a gal without a country, a citizen of the world. I carry my home on my back and take my pleasure where it comes. Not that I don't love every blessed liver-jangling moment of it. I do. But I've earned my place among the giants in the field, and so must you. Oh, and be sure to get a real good radio. It's key.
That would be Boomer, world-famous mother of all truckers.
She's cool.
Yes, she is, Archie. Yes, she is.
But now it's time to finish up with the Park and Ride words with our famous final wrap-up.
Indeed, it is that time, Archie. Quickly now, you'll hear a melange of words from both groups in no particular order.
Each word will be followed by that part of the speech in which it was used for context. Use that context to remember the meaning of the word.
For good measure, of course, we'll round off each little review with a brief definition of that word. Then it's on to the next, and so on.
We've not much time, so let's begin. Zoinks! And away!
First up is inert.
There I wouldn't fall prey to my own inertia.
To be inert, or to exhibit inertia, is to be unmoving, still, or not active.
Hegira.
Where every day is a new beginning, each pump of the pedal a chance at redemption, and every highway and interstate a potential hegira. What could be better, I ask you, than a daily opportunity to get to a better place?
Hegira means a journey to a better place or higher level.
Phlegmatic.
That's what I get for being so phlegmatic. I never go to the library to look up my family history.
Phlegmatic means sluggish, slow to get started, hard to stimulate.
Peripatetic.
True, a peripatetic life like this one ain't for everyone. Those who prefer to stay in one place ought not to consider a motile lifestyle such as mine.
Peripatetic means moving frequently, unsettled, without a permanent home.
Languorous.
And there'd still be time to lie languorously by the pond and bathe in the warm rays of the sun.
Languorous is still or unmoving in a dreamy, sleepy, or unhurried manner.
Peregrination.
It's fine to view your work as the peregrinations of a great adventurer, but to do it in the privacy of your own cab is what I suggest.
A peregrination is a journey.
In situ.
But I can't really help it. I was born in situ, as you can plainly see. How am I supposed to get out of the house when it's growing out of my back?
In situ means in place or original position.
To gad.
Likewise, if you're the type who just likes to gad about, moving aimlessly from locale to locale, then trucking should be avoided.
To gad is to wander or meander from place to place.
Caryatid.
A big mansion with beautiful caryatids holding up the roof. That'd sure be nice. All those tall women.
A caryatid is a supporting column in the shape of a woman.
Celerity.
The trucker's primary objective is, after all, to get from here to there with the utmost celerity.
Celerity is speed, dispatch, or rapidity.
Cunctation.
In a palace with lots of servants and helpers, no one would ever accuse me of cunctation. I'd get done all the things I always wanted to.
Cunctation is procrastination.
Motile.
Those who prefer to stay in one place ought not to consider a motile lifestyle such as mine.
Motile is capable of spontaneous movement.
Quagmire.
I'm stuck in a cognitive quagmire about my own identity. The same one in which I grew up, I think.
A quagmire is a swamp or bog or any situation from which one can't extricate oneself.
Diaspora.
I have more than once likened life on the road to the early diaspora. I'm a gal without a country, a citizen of the world.
The diaspora was an historical event in which the Jews left Israel and spread throughout the world. It can be used to describe any similar event.
Coffle.
I would have no use at all for the word coffle in my house. Since I naturally deplore bondage of any sort, I would refuse to keep any creatures, man or beast, chained up in a line.
A coffle is a group chained together in a line.
To gallivant.
You can tell your friends you've been gallivanting around the country, moving from fancy affair to fancy affair if that's the sort of fantasy you require.
To gallivant is to run about from place to place with special friends looking for fun and good times.
I could use a little gallivanting, truth be told.
Well, let's do it.
You said it meant with special friends, though.
Veronica!
Just yanking your doohickey, Archibald. Hey, Archie? What are you doing?
I'm making spooky noises.
Dare I ask why? Or is it simply a way to ease us into this next word group, shadows and light? I'll take that as a yes. And I suppose we'll be starting with the shadows portion of the group? Well, okay then. This next group of words all have to do with some kind of darkness or lack of clarity.
They're spooky.
Right, they're spooky. And the first spooky word is...
Obfuscate. Rennie was hopeful that the truth would not come out. He obfuscated for hours until he was compelled to tell the whole story.
Obfuscate literally means to darken, but it often gets used to mean to bewilder, confuse, or make unclear. Witnesses are asked to testify under oath to prevent them from obfuscating.
Which, by the way, is not something I ever understood. I mean, how is an oath going to make an obfuscator any less likely to obfuscate?
I don't know. I guess that's one for the magic leprechauns to answer.
The who?
The magic leprechauns. They know all about oaths and troths and bubbly boths.
Bubbly bows, huh? You're nutty. I'm leaving obfuscate behind and moving on to the next word. Nefandous. I shuddered to think of the nefandous acts my cannibalistic neighbor was engaged in.
Nefandous means truly abominable, so awful as to be unspeakable. Looking back on this remarkable century, one is both uplifted by the many noble and extraordinary achievements of mankind and sickened by our capacity to commit the most nefandous acts. And you know who you are.
Yeah, nefandous.
That's one of them there onomatopoetic words.
How you figure, Cletus?
Well, just listen to this. Nefandous. Sure sounds like an evil word, don't it?
Let me see. Nefandous. Dag, you're right about that, Cletus. Nefandous is onomatopoetic. It sounds just like what it's supposed to mean.
Someone who is guilty of a nefandous crime, a crime so horrible it can hardly be described, might well be called a miscreant.
Yeah, miscreant, evildoer, bad guy.
My great-aunt Bertha has a tendency to clutch her purse and hobble just a little bit more quickly past any group of teenagers she sees. She assumes that they're all miscreants.
Now that's just not fair. She really should stop imprecating them all across the board.
That's right. There are plenty of real miscreants to imprecate.
Imprecate, which, as you might have guessed, is our next word smart word, means to curse.
Great-aunt Bertha makes the mistake of imprecating or cursing every group of teenagers she sees based solely on their age, not on their individual merits. The majority of them, I'm sure, are not actual miscreants. Miscreants deserve to be imprecated along with all the hooligans, hoods, hoodlums, ruffians, and rakehells.
Ooh, rakehell, good one. That's easy enough to remember, too. In fact, the word rakehell derives from the notion that a person is so evil that you'd have to literally rake hell in order to find him or her.
That's really bad, isn't it? You'd have to rake hell to find a rakehell. I think you may have made that bit up. I'll have to ask my editor whether or not that's true.
I wouldn't if I were you. There's no quicker way I know of to turn a sunny sky into a tenebrous one than to stir up trouble in that department. Besides, it's a great mnemonic.
True, but what's with this new word? You bring him right in here like that, unannounced, no introduction. What am I supposed to think? Come, who is it?
Oh, sorry, this is tenebrous. He means gloomy, dark, and foreboding.
That's better. Hello, Tenebrous. It's nice to meet you finally. Archie, would you please get our guest here a little something to eat, perhaps a slice of kugel, and then use them in a proper sentence?
Okay, here's your kugel. Let me see. The tenebrous clouds moving in from the east signal the coming of a particularly strong storm system. Tenebrous.
Very good. That's better. That's how we learn vocabulary in this house. Tenebrous, dark and gloomy. Good. Okay, now you two go and play outside while I look after another shadow word from the group Shadows and Light. It doesn't look the least bit tenebrous out there right now.
Okay, can I make a suggestion before Tenebrous and I leave? For the next word?
Why, certainly, Archie. Which word would you like to hear?
Inscrutable, please.
Oh, very good. Inscrutable is high up on my list of best favorite words. How to begin? Well, let's just start with a basic definition.
Inscrutable means hard to understand, yielding little information, mysterious. The Sphinx, for all her power, grandeur, and beauty, is completely inscrutable. No one knows just what the heck she's thinking.
Same with the Mona Lisa, a famously inscrutable portrait. Look at her. Is she smiling? Is she frowning? Is she really a woman? Who is she? I can't tell. She's inscrutable.
She's just a sad and lonely, lovely work of art. What more do you need to know?
I don't need to. It's just that her inscrutability is so fascinating to me. The less she reveals, the more I feel I must know.
Well, get a load of you acting like a man.
I also feel like we're close to finishing the shadows portion of this group.
We are but one final bon mot away from covering them all. May I have the honor?
Hit it.
Then I give you Thonic, spelled, and I kid you not, CHTHONIC.
Sounds more like what a Dudley Moore character likes with his gin.
Well, the first C is silent.
And not to mention the first H.
Whatever. Thonic means having to do with the underworld, like where all the demons and gods and people who live after death hang out. The underworld. Thonic.
Henrietta was so obsessed with all things Thonic that she wore nothing but black, hung heavy drapes on her windows, and performed strange rituals to summon the denizens of Hades to the floor of her bedroom.
Goth chicks of the world unite.
Goth chicks? Never mind. I'll get back to the world of Word Smart Genius too, with you or without you. And do a review.
Lots of oohs in that sentence.
Can we just start?
Okay, I'll start. Obfuscate.
To make unclear, to bewilder or confuse.
Nefandous.
Something so horrible it cannot be spoken of.
Miscreant.
A bad guy, evildoer, general skunk.
To imprecate.
To curse.
Rakehell.
A really evil person.
Tenebrous.
Dark and gloomy, even a little spooky.
Inscrutable.
Hard to understand, unyielding of information or mysterious.
Thonic.
Having to do with the underworld.
Well, that would be just about all of them for the shadow section. I think it's that time again, time to meet the master. Time to hear the vocab as it comes to life in the mouth of some super genius with the context to make it all sing.
Where do you come up with that stuff? Just introduce the judge.
Oh, sorry. Ladies, gents, please give a warm welcome to Justice Penelope Morgan Philo-Fallowstein for the 27th Circuit Court of Upper Inner Outer Monmouth County.
Oi, hello. Oh, what a day on the bench. My buns are killing me. If I have to listen to one more lying, cheating, obfuscating son of a you-know-what sit in my courtroom and mock my legal system, I'm gonna need more than your average day in the shop to unwind. Oh, the nefandous deeds these miscreants indulge in. Oh, God, I can't even talk about it. It gets me so mad. Where's my compact? Oh, there. These clouds are getting so tenebrous, I'm gonna need a flashlight in a minute if I'm gonna find anything. Oh, boy. Anyway, let me tell you about this last Raquel the bailiff dragged in for me today. He's from somewhere I can't remember where, but his ex-wife is suing him for imprecating her following the divorce. So I says to them, if you still wanted to have sex, why'd you break up? To which his attorney, that schmuck, who suddenly stops being so totally inscrutable, responds by dispensing information for free at this point. He says the guy didn't impregnate his client, he imprecated her, damning her to Haiti or some such donic place, to which I respond, I wasn't aware that the law forbade cursing people to hell. He says it's not strictly speaking. Only problem is, it worked. Seems this lady's just barely managed to get back from there, and now she's suing for the price of a dye job for a badly burned hairdo. I say hair don't, but either way, the gal's got a point.
That's my kind of justice.
Lone justice, it would seem.
No justice, no pizza.
Archie?
Would you believe no justice, no peas?
Arch.
Oh, all right, no justice, no schmustis.
Better. Now let's turn the beat around here and look at the other side of the mountain.
That's right, it's time for the light half of Shadows and Light. This ought to put us in a better mood, eh, what?
I should think so.
Shall we dance?
Do let's.
Allow me to introduce our first glamorous contestant. She's from way down south in Dixie. She's divinely bright. She's giving off light. Ladies and gentlemen, she's scintillating. Isn't she lovely?
Oh, yes, Archie. Just look how scintillating. Notice how the light seems to shine almost from within. And just look at how brilliant. My, this is a display the likes of which we haven't seen in quite some time, isn't it?
Indeed, Veronica. But that's the thing about scintillating. Time just does not seem to dim her lustrous beauty, even when she gets applied unfairly or incorrectly, as she so often is when people are describing mood swings, napkins, or late Barbra Streisand films.
That's right, Archie. It's important to remember, even as she leaves the stage, that scintillating literally means to give off sparks. So be certain to use her only when you mean that something or someone is so wonderful or compelling that they appear to be doing just that.
Good point, Veronica, and allow me to say that you are positively scintillating yourself tonight. You're just giving off sparks.
Why, thank you, Archie.
No need to thank me. It's very simply the truth. Now, let's take a look at our next bright-eyed contestant, Diadem.
Oh, now here's an unfairly underrated beauty. Just look at her, will you? She's not quite as statuesque as some of our competitors, but my, who else can claim to mean a sparkling crown or tiara?
Wow, I'd hate to be around should she win tonight. Can you just imagine the sight of Diadem actually wearing a diadem? A crown with a crown would be almost more than I think these judges are willing to see.
You could be right, Archie, because remember, as popular as Diadem is, and let's face it, every contestant wants to be wearing one, she's never actually won this contest.
That's right, Veronica. Over thousands of years, Diadem has never worn her namesake. Never. Not once. It almost seems unfair, doesn't it?
She certainly would look resplendent, though. Let's hear it for Diadem, the sparkling crown, ladies and gentlemen.
Speaking of resplendent, I have here a message from the organizers saying that Resplendent is unable to compete tonight. Apparently, although she means dazzling, gorgeous, and beautiful,
In other words, everything we love.
she has sprained her ankle on a broken heel and will have to drop out of the entire competition. Wow, that's big, Veronica. No Resplendent in competition here.
Amazing, Archie. That's really going to change things here tonight. Just imagine. No, you look resplendent in that new gown. No, Jacqueline was resplendent in pearls, fur, and an enormous flowing cape.
No, she looked twice as resplendent last year in a better dress and with a better bag. It hardly seems possible that we could go on without her, but ladies and gentlemen, we have no Resplendent in competition here tonight.
You better believe the girls are quietly cheering backstage, especially Lucent, who has lost the coveted Diadem no less than 3 times in the last 5 years to none other than Resplendent.
Truly, Veronica, no one stands to gain more here tonight than does Lucent. meaning bright, brilliant, glowing, and incandescent. Lucent has been playing the underdog here for years, but with the forfeiture of resplendent, this just might be her big night.
Remember, Archie, when we first saw Lucent some 500 years ago? She was in that sentence, "The moon is so lucent this evening that I don't need a light by which to read."
That's right, Veronica. Lucent seemed so simple and beautiful at that time. Who could have imagined just how luminous she'd grow up to be? Now she's an honest-to-God world-class competitor, right up there with the brightest names.
And just look at her, will you? The long lines of the L, the curl of the C.
You're right about that, Veronica. Lucent has a terrific set of consonants, but frankly, I'd like to know if I can buy a vowel.
Oh, you. Well, there she goes, bright, glowing, brilliant Lucent. Now we have a new entry this year, by the way.
Yes, here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Diaphanous.
Diaphanous making her first appearance on the pageant circuit this year, wearing...
Oh my God.
What is it?
My goodness, Diaphanous is wearing a see-through dress tonight.
Well, of course she is. Diaphanous. So light, so sheer, so clear, so nearly transparent.
But I can literally see through her dress. Not completely clearly, but I can see through it.
And if you couldn't, she wouldn't be diaphanous.
But, Veronica, I can see her...
Archie, that's enough now. Let's let Diaphanous exit and introduce the next contestant.
Okay, here comes lapidary, a word I'm frankly surprised was admitted.
I can see why, Archie. There's something a bit problematic about parading around the fact that one makes a living cutting and selling precious stones. I mean, how can Diadem feel with lapidary running around the same dressing area?
It is a little morbid, Veronica, but rules are rules. It's interesting to note that lapidary can be both a noun or an adjective, and I dare say that she is a she, no, that she'll earn at least a few extra bonus points during the talent competition for that.
True enough, Archie. She may be less than glamorous. She may be more substance than style. She may even be giving the truth to the lie of this whole competition. But you must hand it to lapidary. She can be either a noun or an adjective.
Just listen to her entry sentence. The aging lapidary, considered by many to be the best cutter in the whole Diamond District, was also possessed of an encyclopedic knowledge of lapidary history, science, and culture.
Wow, Archie. That's one heck of a beautiful sentence. I must say she may be the runt to the litter, glamour-wise, but lapidary sure can turn a phrase. A noun and an adjective in one sentence.
But remember, in this round of competition, the talent phase counts for considerably less than beauty, so who knows?
Who indeed, Archie? We can only wish lapidary the best of luck. I know she'll need it. But look, rounding out the finals are two of the venerable grand dames of the competition. Gals who, while they may have lost the bloom of youth, still exemplify all the wonder and profundity that light can represent at its best.
It says here that thaumaturgy and theodicy were hoping to enter together, but even two words as accomplished and established as these two were unable to convince the committee to bend the rules.
Thaumaturgy, by several inches the taller of the two, represents the performance of miracles and magic. She hails from the days when light and its appearance meant so much more than the mere flip of a switch that it does today.
Centuries ago, the ability to draw a spark from flint or use a lens to harness the power of the sun were considered acts of thaumaturgy.
Of course, thaumaturgy doesn't mean only miracles of light. Indeed, any miraculous or magical act can be considered thaumaturgy.
Wow, doesn't she look great? It's a little sad, though, to see the likes of a miracle worker like her fall into disrepair. Really, if any of the other girls had half an ounce of real courage, they'd turn over their crowns to the likes of thaumaturgy just for her pioneering work in the field.
And just look at Theodicy. She's like the Statue of Liberty standing on that stage. And just think of the meaning she brings to bear by just being here. A defense of God's benevolence despite the existence of evil. You hear that, Archie? Despite the existence of evil.
Well, she's got her work cut out for her, that's for sure.
It says here in her statement of purpose that she and thaumaturgy are standing together tonight as a testament to the validity of the goodness of God. She feels that pitting beautiful words against each other is giving in to the dark forces that are at work on our planet, and that only by working as collaborators can we feel God's glory in our hearts.
Well, I suppose that is a defense of God's goodness, but I, for one, rather enjoy the pageant, don't you, Veronica?
I sure do, Archie, and I am so happy to see these two up there together. I just hope the other girls can see the significance of their presence here, no matter what their religious affiliation.
And that just about rounds out the evening gown portion of the competition. We're going to get a chance to see the girls one more time before they break to prepare for the swimsuit competition.
Let's give them all just one more look for good measure. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for all the bright, beautiful ladies of light.
They're scintillating.
She means giving off sparks, fabulous or brilliant.
Welcome, diadem.
A sparkling crown or tiara.
In absentia, resplendent.
Gorgeous, completely beautiful, perfect.
The ever-hopeful, lucent.
Glowing, full of light, giving off light.
The, leaving little to the imagination, diaphanous.
Sheer, clear, almost transparent.
Hello, lapidary.
A lapidary is a diamond cutter or expert. If you love diamonds, you enjoy all lapidary things.
The noble thaumaturgy.
The performance of magic or miracles.
And finally, theodicy.
A defense of God's goodness, despite the existence of evil.
And that's just about going to do it for the light words from the group Shadows and Light.
That's right, Archie. And we certainly have had a terrific time hosting tonight's competition. We're going to say goodnight and good cheer, but before we go, we're going to turn the runway over to one of this evening's more illustrious judges who help us understand the importance of these words.
And this great event. Won't you welcome, please, the first master of ceremonies, the original lover of light, Mr. Kenneth Hampshire III.
Thank you. Thanks so very much. Really, such a pleasure. Veronica, you do in fact look resplendent this evening in that gown and knee brace. It's very nice to see how far our little pageant has come over the years. It began on a stormy night back in Newport when the power to our cottage was cut off by lightning. It was a scintillating burst of energy from the sky. It knocked poor Mother's diadem off her head and clear across the room. I frankly don't think she should have been wearing it around the house, but Father was such a lapidary enthusiast that he insisted she sport the diamond-encrusted tiara whenever they were together in the house. The force of its being thrown so far caused many of the jewels to scatter, which so devastated poor old Dad that he attempted to smother himself with one of Mother's finest handkerchiefs. But dear Mother, stalwart as she ever was, pointed out that since it was of a rather diaphanous material, this handkerchief would probably do little to cut off Father's respiration, and that he should therefore reconsider. Poison would be better. Father, ever respectful, followed her wishes, and were it not for the thaumaturgical powers of our rather odd groundskeeper, Mr. Washington, Dad might have bought the form right then and there. Washington rushed to the scene, laid hands on dear old dying Dad, and suddenly Father was as good as new. It was a miracle. Mrs. Pugh, our charwoman, of course began ranting about how she would add this night to her theodic journal, in which she's collecting anecdotes about how good things happen to bad people. As the evening drew to a close under an unnaturally lucent night sky, we all said our blessings, checked the safe to make sure the bonds were all intact, and then we slept by the light of the silvery moon.
Quite a night.
Indeed.
Let's get out of here.
Agreed. But first, a full review of all the words in the group Shadows and Light.
Do we have to?
I'm afraid so.
Okay. Here's how it works. You'll hear each word in no particular order, followed by the sentence from the speech in which it was used in context.
It could be a shadow word or a light word. Either way, we're mixing them up.
That will give you a chance to review the word's usage and meaning on your own before you hear one final working definition. We'll go through all the words in this fashion until they've all been covered. Get it?
Got it.
Good. Let's go. We'll begin with scintillating.
It was a scintillating burst of electricity from the sky.
To scintillate is to give off sparks.
To obfuscate.
If I have to listen to one more lying, cheating, obfuscating son of a you-know-what sit in my courtroom and mock my legal system, I'm going to need more than the average day in the shop to unwind.
To obfuscate is to make unclear, to darken or confuse.
Diadem.
It knocked dear mother's diadem off her head and clear across the room.
A diadem is a sparkling crown or tiara.
Nefandous.
The nefandous deeds these miscreants indulge in. Oh, I can't even talk about it. It gets me so mad.
Nefandous is so horribly evil that it can't be talked about.
Resplendent.
Veronica, you do in fact look resplendent this evening in that gown and knee brace.
Resplendent is radiant, gleaming, gleamingly beautiful.
Miscreant.
The nefandous deeds these miscreants indulge in. Oh, I can't even talk about it. It gets me so mad.
A miscreant is an evildoer.
Lucent.
As the evening drew to a close under an unnaturally lucent night sky, we all said our blessings, checked the safe to make sure the bonds were intact, and then we slept by the light of the silvery moon.
Lucent is glowing or shining with light.
Imprecate.
He says the guy didn't impregnate his client. He imprecated her, damning her to Haiti or some such chthonic place.
To imprecate is to curse or to damn someone.
Diaphanous.
But dear mother, stalwart as she ever was, pointed out that since it was of a rather diaphanous material, this handkerchief would probably do little to cut off father's respiration, and that he should therefore reconsider.
Diaphanous, sheer or almost transparent.
Raquel.
Anyway, let me tell you about this last Raquel the bailiff dragged in for me today.
A Raquel is a person so evil, one would have to rake hell to find them.
Lapidary.
I frankly don't think she should have been wearing it around the house, but father was such a lapidary enthusiast, he insisted that she sport the diamond-encrusted tiara whenever they were together in the house.
A lapidary is a jewel cutter. As an adjective, it means having to do with precious stones.
Tenebrous.
These clouds are getting so tenebrous, I'm going to need a flashlight in a minute if I'm going to find anything.
Tenebrous is dark, gloomy, cast in shadow.
Thaumaturgy.
Were it not for the thaumaturgical powers of our rather odd groundskeeper, Mr. Washington, Dad might have bought the farm right then and there. It was a miracle.
Thaumaturgy is the performing of miracles.
Inscrutable.
To which her attorney, that schmuck, who suddenly stops being so totally inscrutable, responds by dispensing information for free at this point.
Inscrutable means mysterious, hard to understand, unyielding of information.
Theodicy.
Mrs. Pugh, our charwoman, of course began ranting about how she would add this night to her theodic journal, in which she's collecting anecdotes about how good things happen to bad people.
Theodicy is the defense of the benevolence of God despite the presence of Celine Dion.
Chthonic.
He says the guy didn't impregnate his client, he imprecated her, damning her to Haiti or some such chthonic place.
Chthonic means having to do with the underworld. And that is the end of Shadows and Light.
Use the word